Startup Grind is active in over 600 cities around the world, here in Zurich for the last 7 years, and we like to interview successful founders, entrepreneurs, and share a little bit of the journey that they have had and hopefully inspire you and give you some education and inspiration for your journey. And thank you so much to weSpace for hosting us tonight, for providing the nice apero, and also to Laura for jumping in last minute to be our guest. And I hope you guys all enjoy it. Laura, welcome to Startup Grind.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us tonight on such short notice. And we like to go back a little bit in time and understand where you come from as a person. Where were you born? Are you from Switzerland?
Yeah. Yeah, I have like a super boring life. I was born and always lived in Switzerland because I love it
One
here.
thing that's interesting for me and why I always try to get Swiss founders is because it's easier to relate to other people. If you have a founder that comes from another country, it's like, oh yeah, it worked for you because you grew up there or you had that. But so where in Switzerland do you come from?
Schaffhausen.
Schaffhausen.
So actually Neuhausen at the Rheinfall, if anyone knows the Rheinfall, it's the biggest waterfall in Europe. Absolutely beautiful region.
And as a kid, as a child, did you have some entrepreneurial streak within you? Were you like selling candies to your friends in school or something like that?
Well, not really, but we never got like money from our parents, but we always had to work for it.
Okay. So you had that concept.
I learned that money has to be earned. It's not something that you just get for free. And also like later on, I always had like a budget and I had to live with it. I could never like just call my parents. During my university time, I also worked as a hostess at the Autosal, also not really related to the work I'm doing now, but at least I could improve my language skills.
Yeah. Did you think as a child that one day you'd be running your own business, or in this case, running two businesses?
No, not really. As I told you, like my purpose as a child was to become a princess, and then my parents told me that's not a profession. And then I thought, yeah, maybe then I become a lawyer, because actually my mom thought that I was sometimes a very difficult negotiating child, and so she said like, I hope she's not becoming a lawyer, and if she does, I never want to be on the other side. So I thought, maybe I do that. Okay. So like from princess to paid slavery. Yeah. And now I'm doing something in between because I still wanted to have some say and some impact. So I think the entrepreneurial way is a great way to have it both ways.
And with your studies, you studied not only in Switzerland but also in Italy. Yeah. You did your studies in St. Gallen. How did that shape who you are today, and how does that impact, or do you see an impact, a direct impact in you wanting to be entrepreneurial? Well, yes, in some ways. I liked, because I studied law and economics. Okay. So I always liked this interdisciplinary studies. And we had a lot of entrepreneurs talking to us, telling about their lives and showing us their business models, which was, I really like that about HSG. Okay. So it's not only focused on the academics, but also on the work life. And then I think at HSG, but even more at Bocconi, I really much learned and enjoy working in interdisciplinary and diverse teams. Okay. Yeah. Because we had like people from all over the world and teamed up, and that was very inspiring. Yeah. When you were studying, so you're studying mainly law, but how did that affect your interest? So right now, besides being a lawyer, you've also done some investments. Yeah. You're running the co-working space. How did you get into the investor space? Well, yeah, as I said, I studied law and economics. So I had also did a lot of business administration stuff, corporate finance, M&A at university already. Then when I started my career as a lawyer, I always worked in private equity and venture capitals and a lot with startups. So I advised entrepreneurs and investors on the whole investment cycles. And I was always curious about, there must be more than just like the legal side to it. And I want to understand the whole picture. And then one of my partners at the law firm I worked before, Wenger Fili, he is a member of Go Beyond, and he introduced me to this program. It's called the Rising Tide program. Okay. Yeah. And it's basically a women investor fund club program structured in Luxembourg. So we don't talk about the legal structure. What it is like a bunch of women, we're like 100 from all over Europe, some even from the US and other overseas countries, investing in one pot, and then we allocate that to 8 to 10 different startups all across Europe. And that was super interesting because you got to see the whole investment cycle. I could have the possibility to exchange experience with people from the tech side, from the financing side, from like healthcare and pharma and all that. So yeah,
and
I enjoyed that.
Having such an in-depth perspective to the investment cycles didn't scare you away from the risk that it takes to be an investor?
No, actually I think you need to understand the risk to become a good investor. And what I like most about being an angel investor is that you can make an impact. You can decide where you put your money, and you can invest in the world as you want to see it tomorrow.
So that's often termed as smart investors. So
Exactly.
You're not only interested in a return on your investment, but also involved in the company. Do you
Exactly.
get involved in the
And
startups that you invest in?
Yeah, that's what we do a lot with Rising Tide. We bring smart money, and we want to support the entrepreneurs. We want to understand their needs, and we want to see if we can really contribute to them. And otherwise, usually we don't invest.
Okay.
Because I think it has to be both.
For sure.
And we also need to align on our mission, align on the focus, align on our goals, and see if it works out, like also on a personal level. Because it's still a long journey. If you think as an angel investor, you invest quite early, so you stay together for a few years. And if you don't get along very well, I don't think that's a good match for both sides.
What's your top tip for someone who's getting ready to start pitching for angel or seed funding?
Well, one thing is like if you want to put your pitch together, then think about on who you speak to, like.
Or maybe what's the biggest mistake you see people making? I don't know if that's easier.
Well, I see that sometimes the pitch isn't complete, that they don't really get to the point. Because usually you have like a certain time for pitching, and what people want to see in that time is what's your product, what need does it address, how do you make money with it, and what's your exit strategy, and then maybe also if you know your market, if you know your competitors, and then most important, the team. Because as an angel, you invest so early, it's super difficult for you to know whether that idea will really have success. But if you have a good team, even a good team can change a mediocre idea to a very good idea. But if you have a bad team, they don't succeed even with a good idea.
Right. Yeah. What have you seen as the big difference between VC or larger rounds and the angel rounds?
Well, sometimes you have even like VCs coming in at the same time as angel, but usually if you go like from a traditional perspective, you see that angels they bring a lot of smart money.
VC is more the massive growth that you're looking for.
Exactly. VC is more coming in at the growth stage, and also the deal terms are different. VCs sometimes don't even do a lot of due diligence in that, because also there's not a lot of them you can show at that time, and VCs really want to see all the details.
Okay, yeah. So you were working before for law firms, and you decided to create your own startup, your own law firm. How did that come about?
That was really unplanned, because at a certain point I was asking if that's really it. And
you mentioned that you never wanted to be a founder.
Exactly. That was like, as I told you, first I wanted to become a princess, then I thought like, okay, let's become a lawyer. But I loved to be employed, and I was super happy with the corporate world. And then at a certain point I was asking myself, where can I really add value? And is what I'm doing here really aligned with the purpose I have in life? and with my goals, and does it really improve people's life? And I put a question mark there. So I thought, well, let's just like quit, travel for a time, and get inspiration on what you want to do next. And then it didn't take me a few weeks until the first startup started to approach me and said like, oh, we heard that you quit. And but I mean, you're still going to be a lawyer, right? And then like other friends coming with their own projects and were talking about that to me. So I decided, yeah, why not? I mean, I have the knowledge. I enjoy helping people, support them, set the framework so that they can operate without facing problems afterwards. Yeah, and that's how I got into it. And on the same travel also, Nadine contacted me. She was associated with the founders of weSpace and is now head of advisory board of weSpace, and pitched the idea of taking over weSpace and running this wonderful community project, because we're both very much in this ecosystem as like we're both LPs of the Rising Tide investment, both members of 100 Women in Finance, and both very active in the startup sector. So it was a perfect match.
So you started your law firm startup at the same time as you wanted to
almost
at the same time?
I started my law firm project
Yeah.
at the same time as I started contract negotiation with the founders of weSpace, exactly, and to align on how we would take over operations. And actually it's 2 months today, so happy anniversary to my wonderful weSpace team that we took over the operations of weSpace.
Very cool. What's one of or some of the challenges you faced in because I guess it's different when you take over an operation, a company that's already in operation, as opposed to launching your own startup.
Oh, yes.
Many people, in the audience are launching their own startups and building from the ground up, whereas taking over a startup that's already operational is I imagine very different than the more traditional approach that people have.
In the more traditional approach, you can set the structures from the beginning as you want them.
Yeah.
When you take it over, you have to work with what you get and then see if that aligns with where you want to go or if you have to change something.
So weSpace, in a nutshell, tell us what weSpace is.
weSpace is, as you see, a wonderful location, but not only an event location, because during the day it's a co-working space and a women community space. So we are like inspired by women for everyone. But our goal is to empower women entrepreneurs to thrive forward the collaboration between the members, but also between the women networks that we have. There's around 150 different women networks around Zurich, and they don't really collaborate.
Right.
And what we want is to give them a space, give them a location where they all can come together and bundle their initiatives and their expertise, exchange ideas, and
There's that's
go
I was just
toward
talking
equality and equity. Then that would be the goal.
Wonderful.
That's the impact we want to have.
Yeah, I was just talking about that about half an hour ago. How there's so much need for collaboration. There's so many initiatives and not enough collaboration here. So it's really fantastic that you're tackling that challenge and being able to.
And those are the big challenges we are facing during the next months, because what we want to do is, on the one side, we want to set up a community, like an online community, but also an offline community, where people can exchange, where they can get to know each other, because they need to know each other before they can collaborate, drive business towards each other, and also building up a circle of vetted suppliers, because what we found out as entrepreneurs is, and I also see that with all the startups I'm helping with, is that it sometimes costs you so much time, effort, and money to find the right people to work with.
Yeah.
And I think we can, as a community, we can really help each other.
And facilitate that. Nice.
And on the other side, it will be the events, like fireside chats, fuck-up nights to learn from mistakes that other people made, but also all the educational events to really give our members, but like the whole startup community as well, the tools and the information and the knowledge they know to really thrive.
Okay. From a co-working perspective, there's, as you know, there's a lot of co-working spaces in Zurich, and there's a lot of co-working spaces around the world.
Yeah.
It's become a growing trend. Do you see that continuing to grow? How do you see the core concept of co-working?
Yeah, we think it's something that will grow. Not only we don't only see it as a B2C model, because that's like just one part of it, that people, they become entrepreneurs or they work as freelancers. They want to have more flexibility. They don't want to rent a fixed office, but they maybe want to work from different cities, or they just want to try out something, just want to be in a space for a few days or also for a few hours. But then on the other hand, we also see an increase in the B2B model. So corporates renting a co-working desk for their employees and allow them to work from the city they live instead of making them travel every day to work. Also because a lot of corporations nowadays, even before they move to the new offices, they know that there will not be space for all their employees.
Okay.
So I think there's a lot of movement. Once it is the flexibility, but on the other side also that people like to be from time to time in a different setup.
Yeah, of course.
Out of the corporate world, and it helps them to be more creative.
Yeah, and the space is fantastic for that. It's very nicely set up.
Well, it has a feminine touch, but that's what it's supposed to have, right?
Yeah.
It's my little castle now. Yeah. You see a lot of gold.
If someone from the audience has a question, just raise your hand and we'll take questions as well from you guys. So anytime, just let me know.
Yes, please use a mic.
We have a mic to go around for capture the audio. Talking about the startups that you work with, what is something that you love about being an angel investor?
Well, I thought you were asking me what I love about being a startup lawyer, but what I love about being an angel investor. Well, I think really the both. It's to be able to support them and to help them thrive, because you see like those young, very enthusiastic people who put all their efforts in like to get their idea and like to bring their idea forward and to create something. And to be able to help them and support them, not only with money, but also with knowledge. That's something which is very rewarding. Because for me, really, I love to make the life of to improve the life of other people. I always loved that, and that's really something I can live in that profession and in that role.
Have you interacted with startups from other countries or only here in Switzerland?
No, also from other countries, yeah.
Okay. What do you see a big difference between a founder mindset here in Switzerland versus other places?
I'm not sure if it's really country related or more character related.
Okay.
Because I would say there are certain differences, but usually I see bigger differences within the countries than let's say across borders.
I see.
It's also lots of difference I also see from sector to sector, or depending on the teams they work in.
And what advice would you give to someone who's wanting to start their company, to launch a startup?
Think about it wisely and then go through all your options. And I would say, you need an idea. Your product has to address a need which is urgent and important and already on the market. Because if you create a need, it's going to be a lot more difficult. You need to be prepared to invest a lot of your time and a lot of your money, and it's not going to be very glamorous during the first years, but you might have a real impact. And then think about financing strategies at least 6 months in advance before you run out of money. And then, of course, know your market, know your competitors, and know how to pitch your clients, the people you want to work with, and also the investors.
Yep.
So it's not like, it's not rocket science. You can read that in every book. I can tell you anything else.
Yeah. And
true.
would you advise people to not take funding early to try to bootstrap, or what is your thoughts on bootstrap versus seed funding?
It depends, right? As I said, I would say bootstrap as long as you can, but don't start looking for money until it's too late. So if you know that you need funding, then evaluate all the funding possibilities there are, because there are other possibilities than looking for equity. And there are more and more debt funding possibilities. There's sometimes also subsidies from states and from the federal government or whatever, from private institutions. But then if you really need venture capital funding, then start to prepare at least 6 months in advance,
Right.
because it will take you time. And then talk to different investors and spread the word in the market, see that you can onboard a lot of interest, because that is strengthening your negotiation position. Well, yeah. And then make sure that you onboard a good lawyer, and I don't say that for self-advertisement. You can go to anyone else, but onboard someone who really
Early
understands
on.
it and who helps you negotiating the deal terms. And don't sign not even a term sheet if you're not 100% sure about the deal terms you want to have in there, because that can really hit you afterwards.
Right. So it's worth the investment that you have to make in a good lawyer ahead of time.
Yes, and actually it's a lot cheaper if you set it up right from the beginning than to try and correct
Fix it later.
Exactly.
Yeah. What about exit strategies?
Super important, and it should be part of your pitch already, because if
From
you
the early stage.
If you go and pitch, at least if you go and pitch to VCs, or if you go and pitch to angels, VC funds, they need to be out in 3 to 7 years.
Right.
So they want to see how they can exit from that investment and how they do money. So it's something very important, and it's also super important to align on the exit strategy with your co-founders already, and discuss that before you even co-found with them. Because if you have totally different ideas, if someone wants it's like their baby and they want to keep it and they want to pass it on to their children, and someone just wants to build it up for 5 years and then sell it, that's gonna be a clash at some time.
For sure, yeah. Have you? So you were also working with M&A and exits. And
Yes.
What's some of the biggest challenges you've seen in a acquisition? I guess more from a merger acquisition perspective. Is it more from a financial perspective, a culture, integration, the deal term?
Well, it really depends. You have different types of M&A transactions. Let's say if you have a management buyout saying a PE is investing, the management will stay. There you really have to concentrate you will negotiate the best deal for your client, but make sure that the PE investing and the management is still aligned and they are still friends, because they need to work for another 2 to 5 years together.
Right.
If a strategic investor is coming in, or a strategic buyer, and buys the whole company, you don't see each other for a long time, except if you would have a breach of warranty of the agreement, but then you will see each other in court, so you don't need to be friends. And that's something you have to think about it first. And it's also a difference in how to negotiate such a deal for your clients. But also from a client perspective, if you are the management, or if you are the PE, or if you are the strategic buyer, it makes a difference on how you structure the deal and on how you negotiate.
And as someone who's thinking about launching their startup, is this something that they need to be concerned about already, or at least have some understanding or look into?
On how such an M&A deal would look like?
Not necessarily an M&A, but to be aware of these challenges.
Yeah, it's never bad to be prepared. But I think most important is that they are aware of the possible exit strategies they have. That they know the market and they know to whom they could sell the company, or if they want to look for an IPO, or if they want to look for new investors or whatever, but they should have an idea on where to go with that company.
What is your experience with the VC and angel environment here in Switzerland?
It's changing. So it's not yet there where it is it's a lot bigger in the US and the UK, but it's an environment which is growing.
Yeah.
But like from a female entrepreneur side and a female angel investor side, it's a pity that we see that still a lot of VC money is not going to female entrepreneurs. Like a lot of female entrepreneurs are still excluded from VC financing. It's changing a bit now. There's a new study in the EU which says that a lot of funds are now focusing also on female investors because it makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, we have statistically proven that diverse teams perform better.
Right.
So it actually does not make sense to exclude female founders or like mixed teams from that founding, but it's just, I think it's mostly due to the difference in how they present themselves and how they pitch to the investors. But yeah, that's something we want to see change during the next years.
And that's what you want to focus on.
And that's what we want to focus here, empower those entrepreneurs to get this funding,
right.
And that we want to change with our investments with our angel investments to get this funding to female founders.
So you plan to offer trainings as well for female founders for pitching and for all of those?
That's kind of our event series.
Cool. That's great.
And by the way, you can all sign up to our newsletter. The link is on our homepage. Sorry for the promotion, but that's really needed because if there are female entrepreneurs listening to that talk, I would very much suggest that you look at our events, and if there's something you're interested in, then you can register. You can always call us or write us an email if you want to have more insights.
Very good.
And that's something that we want to give our members in the future, that they know that we are there. I mean, we have experience in that field, and I mean, we want to drive collaboration, and that's and the first thing is giving.
Yeah.
So if they need help, they can always approach us.
That's wonderful. And you personally, what drives you? What gives you the mindset that you have right now? And what is it that inspires you?
I think I always had the mindset that it makes me happy to improve other people's life.
How does that fit in the corporate world where you?
Well, not 100%. Actually, it's a bit.
Is that why you had to escape?
It's sometimes even hindering you, because if you want to be everybody's darling, you're going to crucify yourself, and that's not working. So that's what I really like about my job now, that I can choose the people I work with, that I can choose my clients, I can choose the team. And actually, if you would ask me about work-life balance, I would just say work is my life, because I work with my friends on the client side, on the team side, and that's, I mean, I get up every day and I love what I do.
Right.
And that's the best thing you can have.
Oh, for sure.
You cannot wish for anything else, right?
Yes. What advice would you give to a younger you?
Well, maybe not to try to be everybody's darling. And don't doubt yourself so much. I still do that sometimes, so actually it would be an advice I could still give to me today.
To choose more carefully who you work with and...
Yeah, well, actually, I was very lucky in the corporate world. I always had very nice teams and a nice working environment. I learned a lot there, and I'm grateful for all that I could take with me. But I just felt that it was time for a new step. And now that I did it, it's just
evolving more.
Yeah, it's evolving, and I just stay with the flow.
Yeah. And was there a time that you experienced a significant failure or a big setback? And how did you deal with that?
Well, I think we have, it depends if you call it significant, but I think as an entrepreneur you have those failures and setbacks every day.
Yeah.
And actually, as I told you earlier, I started meditating. So what I do in my downtime is I do a lot of sports, skiing, gym, and then meditation every day.
Mm-hmm.
And that really helps me to keep focused.
How does that help when it comes to, I don't know, or so more specifically, was there a scenario or a situation in your business or in your work where there was a significant setback or something that, you know, that had a major impact, or maybe not major, but a bigger impact, something that stands out to you? So it's one thing for you to be able to overcome that and be calm yourself through whatever it is, through the sports and the meditation. It's another thing to, how do you come back from that as a business or as a founder, as a business owner?
Yeah, you ask us that in 1 year from now, and I can tell you how we did overcome all the obstacles that we are facing at the moment. Yeah, because I told you it's like 2 months that the new weSpace team took over. So it's super difficult to tell you if the mistakes that we made, if the challenges that we are facing now, how we will manage to overcome all these little obstacles, sometimes bigger obstacles.
Do you have you dealt with having to hire people?
Yeah, our great office manager, Tiana.
What thoughts do you have on hiring people and building a team?
It was the best choice. So no, but
so it's different when you're first. I mean,
exactly.
Again, it might be a question to come back to in a year from now when you have 20 or 50 employees.
Exactly.
But
we don't think we're going to have 50 employees for weSpace. Well, actually, we're looking more into automatization, but we will keep Tiana, of course. She's our star. I mean, we're not going to do anything without you, Angel. So, no, but really, what I think is most important that it is a personal fit with the team. Mm-hmm. The person has fit in the sense that the mission should be aligned. You have to get along well with each other. You have to have a similar, or at least accept then the difference in your perception of things, and also your work strategies, and then of course the expertise.
Right.
But I would say I would put the person fit first.
Yeah.
The cultural fit is more important to me, because everything else you can learn. You can teach people,
right,
and they can learn on the job. But if the cultural fit is not there, it's not a match. And that's the same with investing, by the way. I always look at the team first, and if that is not a match, I would not invest. Because in the end, it's people.
Of course. And I mean, when it comes to a company, they say that you spend more time with your workmates than you do with your own family. So you better
exactly
where who you're working with.
Exactly.
And even more so as founders and co-founders.
Yeah, we're on the phone every day.
I just lost my train of thought, but there's something I was thinking about when it comes to culture fit. You have your law firm, and you have weSpace. Often entrepreneurs, especially in the beginning, they're the CEO, the CFO, the CMO. It's like you have to wear many hats. What advice would you give to a founder or an entrepreneur who is having to shift focuses and wear different hats?
Yeah, focus, get your priorities straight, and then stick to the plan. And always know where your priorities lie. We actually do in every team meeting. We have this important urgent matrix. And then we set the goals for each day, the goals for each weeks, and then stick to it.
I think stick to the plan is the hardest part. It's easy to make lists. It's easy to get distracted.
Sometimes, but I mean, if you know where your priorities lies, then and if it's something, and if that's the project, you're in it with your full heart, then it's actually super easy to do it. It takes you a lot of energy and some sleepless nights, but you know what you're doing it for.
Right. And our audience today is rather quiet. What's a mistake that you would want other founders to avoid? I mean, mistakes are good because you learn from them, but
Exactly.
some mistakes, what's something that you would hope others could avoid?
It's super difficult to tell you now because it's also new.
Or mistakes that you've seen from your M&A days.
And we didn't really found it, so we didn't do like all these founding mistakes. One mistake that I saw with many of my clients is that they didn't properly set up the structure at the beginning, and it took them a lot of time to fix it up later.
Okay.
David, I mean, we know each other pretty well, I would suggest.
Do we?
No, but one thing that I would like to kind of bounce the ball to you is, I think we're talking about exit strategies at a very early point in time, right? If you're founding something just now, that's quite early on to think about exit strategies, but it's super important that you do, obviously, always. Best investment ever, as Warren Buffett said, is forever. I mean, and I think in regards to like certain startups, it definitely makes sense to actually be invested forever, but in the many cases, it makes sense to have an exit strategy. But for the ball that is coming your way now, I would like to know, like, a lot of founders, in my opinion, don't actually have the liabilities under control. I myself, I'm doing a startup board academy right now. Could you maybe highlight like the couple of things that you think are most important in regards to liabilities? Because a lot of founders forget the liabilities, and also if they have an AG, they have a board, and what kind of influence and what kind of liabilities a board has, because I know you're expert in that.
I actually wanted to have an event on that yesterday, but we had to cancel that one as well. We will hold it another time. Well, do you want me to talk about the liabilities of a board member first, right?
If you can, how much time do we have, David? But
Well, how can you summarize that, or what's the
So,
high level perspective?
So don't forget that as a board, even if you have an AG or a game behind, you think it's limited liability. If I lose it, it's the 20K I invested in the game behind, in AG like 100, and that's it. That's not entirely true. As a board member, you're liable for your actions and personally liable with everything that you own, like with your personal income, with your personal wealth. And especially if you neglect your duties. One major point is social securities and taxes, because there you're always personally liable, even if you have a CFO or an accounting team, doesn't matter, you're the one who was in charge. And the second one is like the duties of a board member, that you have them in the OER, so you can look them up and just make sure that you stick to those duties and that you fulfill them in person.
So the concern is if you decide to be a board member, be aware of the responsibilities and the liabilities that you have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially in startups when they are in financial distress.
do you see a change in how founders currently or used to look at board members and how they're currently looking at board members?
Difficult question. I don't really know if there's really a change, but I would say there's most of the startups, if they want to have people on the board, it's either a VC, like the VC wants to have someone on the board, to have insight. If startup are looking for board members, then they usually look for someone with expertise in a certain field that they don't have.
So it's more finding the experts as opposed to fulfilling the numbers of a board.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
so it is similar with the investing. It's smart investing or smart money, and also smart board members.
But also when startups work together with VCs, they tend to have someone on the board which also brings value to them. Not just someone who is there in order to have influence on the operations or in order to get the information. But it's important. I mean, it's a two-way street, right?
Yeah, Simon.
Hi.
It's on.
It's on. Yeah.
Yes.
I have many questions,
Okay.
but I'll stick to one. I've had difficulty myself balancing the social dynamic that I want to have within my businesses with the actual grind of doing the business every day. And clearly you have a social agenda that has weSpace in terms of its orientation. How do you make the business decision, right? Where the business has to be fed correctly, and at the same time you want to adhere to your mission. And sometimes those don't always align within the marketplace.
Exactly.
So
It's super difficult, and
Yeah,
we struggle with it every day.
yeah. So do you have a chart that actually outlines what wins and what does not, or is this something you do collectively, and do you do it in a way that you bring consensus to the group that is in charge? How do you conceive it?
As I said, we took over 8 weeks ago. So at the moment, that's one of our main questions. How do we get those two aligned? Having the business and like keeping the space alive and running this business, and on the other side, bringing all that value to the community that we want to. And actually, we try to align those two things. And it's like a decision on each event, decision on each sponsorship or partnership, a decision on each changes about memberships, about improving the space, and actually we do it as a team. Yeah, we discuss every major important decision, and then it's full consensus as a team.
Would you mind if I had another question?
No, go shoot.
Okay. This is a slightly different question. Under Swiss law, governance law,
Yes.
The board makes strategic decisions that the CEO carries out. Is that true? Is it still abided in that way? Are the rules very, very strict around those for startups and for moving forward? And how do you share the liability of those decisions between the people who are actively invested, and the people doing the work?
Yeah. Well, actually, the model that you just described is more what we see in Germany with the Aufsichtsrat, which has only the strategic decision, and the operation is run by the management. In Switzerland, actually, the board of directors is the highest managing organ in the company. So actually, the board is in charge of the operations. They can delegate certain things to a CEO, to a CFO, to a management level, but they will still be responsible. So they can delegate it, but they need to make sure that they have certain control mechanisms in place.
Right. So the follow-up of that is when you have volatility in the market, and you have to change directions, and you have to pivot, sometimes 2, 3 times, 4 times. Is the board able to do that?
Well, that maybe depends on the board.
Well, but this is a question that I've had myself in one of my businesses. For instance, in my scenario, I was on the ground doing the work, and the board meetings were every quarter or every 6 months. In my case, it was every 6 months.
Yep.
And we needed to pivot much faster than what the board could actually move with. So the question is do these governance systems actually, are they still functioning in the way that they should for the volatility that we're seeing?
Exactly. Well, in this case, actually, the board would have needed to react, right? They needed not react, but act. Yeah. And that's why, that's one of the beauties we see in startup boards, that you also, because you can talk about if it's good, if the founder is like the founder and the CEO and then also a board member, but actually it can be an advantage because then the board is super closely informed. And under Swiss law, you have the possibilities to hold board meetings via telephone conferences or video conferences. So people don't have to actually sit together, but it's super important as a board member to always be informed because, you're personally liable for what happens to the company.
Okay.
And so that's why I said it depends on the board, but actually if they do it right and if they stick to their duties and responsibilities, they cannot just say, we have another board meeting in 6 months. Then the chairman has to call an emergency board meeting.
That also ties in what you said before about smart money and smart board members, and who you take on your board has to be someone who's aligned with your vision and who is willing to jump in a moment's notice and not say, hey, you know.
And also make sure that the people are available.
Yeah.
And our experienced board members.
Yeah. And that they are not like sitting on 20 other boards and say, oh, I would have time in 8 months to meet again.
That's what I've experienced as well.
Yeah.
Well, that's why UBS and Swiss Air crashed, right?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what happened. The board
Yeah.
wasn't available.
Yeah. And that's why they had all the liability claims afterwards.
Yeah.
Because
But
754,
all
right?
international investors know that because the Swiss market is so small yet very unique in that sense. You must educate them about
Exactly. Exactly.
it. No?
You repeat this for them.
Exactly.
Well, I just said that the Swiss market is small, but obviously it's powerful, is pretty unique. So international investors putting their people on the board, or they would want to have a board seat, they would need to know about those special circumstances and the higher liabilities that a board faces in Switzerland compared to other countries.
Yes. So it's actually if you want to have a good collaboration with your investor, you should educate them about it. And that's what we also do with a lot of international clients that we had with the law firm, that we went there and helped and gave them an education about the duties and liabilities and how that all works in Switzerland and how and what the specialities are about the system. And that's actually what I also do with my super small and young startups, because sometimes they have founders from all over the world. They're young, enthusiasts, tech guys, but like no clue about legal and not very interested about it. But if you just sit together with them, like give them a 30 minutes high level do's and don'ts, that already helps them a lot.
Yeah.
And I think it's really worth investing the time and money to get yourself educated and to have a system in place which works afterwards.
I think for Switzerland it's very relevant because you do have a high number of AGs, I think it's
Exactly,
that
yeah.
are founded.
Exactly.
And I'm not too sure how many of them are really aware of their legal obligations.
Yeah,
Also in terms of bookkeeping, etc.
exactly.
And that needs to be protocols for all those board events.
Yeah. Also, if you transfer shares from one person to another, that it's not done by just signing an agreement. You also have to transfer the shares either in paper or with a transfer declaration that you have, that you need board approval for it and all that stuff. So that's what I was saying. It's super important, and that's a mistake that I saw in many companies, that they didn't set up the structures. I'm talking about the legal structures, the accounting structures, taxes, all that stuff at the beginning.
Right.
And it cost them so much time, money, and effort to fix it afterwards.
So, Laura, what happens if a startup with an AG set up
Yes.
manufactures their board meeting minutes?
You mean,
Which
what,
happens,
you
that
mean what
happens.
happens if they get caught?
And what, yeah,
They go to jail.
literally this is criminal law, right?
Yeah, this is criminal law.
You had a question, Rafa?
Yep, about the startups, mostly startup founders, they are creators. They have no idea about the law.
Well, sometimes they do. And they learn very fast, because startup founders are intelligent person. They can take on a lot of information, they can process this quickly. So when they start, they don't have a clue. But I see that sometimes after 6 months already, they know a lot.
Okay, I'm talking about the situation, because when you are a creator, you focus on creations, then you are the best in creation. When you focus on management, then you lose attention for creation. So then you lose quality of your product.
Not necessarily, because that's what I said earlier. That's why when you invest in a startup, you look at the team. And actually, the ideal team would be the creator, someone who knows about the product, someone who knows a bit about management and sales and marketing, and then maybe a third person who has another skill which is super helpful in this environment, either has like the business contacts, is a serial entrepreneur, or has a legal background, or has a background in that market there where they want to sell the product. So I think that's key. You, like choose your co-founders wisely.
And just short question, how do you track your KPIs? Daily, weekly, monthly?
Depends on your business model and on your KPIs. If it makes sense to track them daily, weekly, or monthly, we have our weekly meetings, and we track like financials and our like the progression and in our to-dos and our steps. We track them weekly. But that doesn't make. I mean, there's not like the perfect answer which fits every model. So it really depends on your model. It depends on how you define your KPIs and what makes sense. What? Money?
It depends on the cash that you have in the company. If you're like or going towards a liquidity, you need to track it a lot more often, and you might have to track it on a daily basis. We're not there. I would like to mention that. But
No, but I mean, KPIs are not only financial KPIs, right?
yeah.
So that's why I'm saying. I mean,
It's case by case.
exactly.
Yeah, right. One last question.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciated the way you described investors as the ones who shape the future. I love it. I had some experience with investment fund. I'm in the biotech pharma industry, and working with startups mainly and funding new biotech companies. But I would love to know more about business angels and the differences with VCs. You have mentioned smart money, differences in deals. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Oh, yeah. Well, sometimes, as I said, the differences are not so big. Depends on what level the angels come in and the VCs come in. But I would say, like, generally, angels do come in a lot earlier. They bring a lot of expertise, smart money, as I said. They support the team. They help them with their network, but also they coach the team sometimes even. Then VCs are mostly coming in when it comes towards growth financing. So angels, I would say, founders are looking more for angel when they need the expertise in like building their products and bring them to market, or even like taking the first few steps of marketing their product, maybe getting the few customers, getting first revenues. And VCs usually then invest at a later stage, which is not entirely true in the pharma and medtech sector. Exactly. Because there you see VCs coming in a lot earlier because the business cycle is so long. Absolutely. The same is for deep tech. I mean, it takes you like 10 years at least. So you have the angels in, and then you have VCs focusing on these sectors, and they come in very early as well. So it really depends. The differences differ from every sector.
Right. Thank you.
I guess the challenge there would be to find, and it is a changing market, it's a changing space as well in the VC world of
exactly.
Of realizing, startup founders are wising up in the sense that they're not just looking for money, they're looking for smart money, even in the VC world. Yeah. And it's so important, it makes such a big difference in the future of your company.
But then also you see, like, as you see the market maturing, you see the tickets growing bigger and bigger. So that makes VC invest earlier, and maybe angels don't come in at all.
Sure.
Because angels are usually looking for small tickets at a very early stage, and if people are able to bootstrap for long enough, they maybe already have their product ready to market, and then you get a VC in looking for an early stage investment and already coming in at a Series C and not waiting for a Series A or B.
So to wrap up,
okay.
I have what we typically call, I ask the same last few questions.
Okay.
They're called rapid fire questions because it's. I expect a very short answer. There's no right or wrong answer.
Not like until now.
And it's the first thing that you don't need to think about it
Okay.
most of the time. It's just the first thing that pops into your mind.
Okay.
So, what's something that you own that you would never sell?
The watch my mom gave, like I inherited from my mom.
What's your most unusual skill?
I have no clue if I ever have if I even have an unusual skill.
Well, next time you come, put on a princess gown, and then that can be your skill.
Oh, really? Yeah, she says like that. I have like 3 brains working on different levels, and I can do like, I'm a super multitasking person.
What's more important, strength, speed, or stamina?
Strength, speed, or?
Stamina.
I would say. It depends on the situation.
Sorry, that's the lawyer answer.
Which historical figure do you admire, current or past?
Coco Chanel.
What's your favorite season of the year?
Winter and summer, actually. So, but maybe winter a bit more because I love skiing.
And when was the last time that you tried something new?
Actually, it happens a lot lately that I tried new stuff. I just need to think about the last time. I think like 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, I skied for the first time outside of Switzerland.
Mm-hmm.
And like last year, I tried so many new sports and traveled so many new countries and tried so many new foods. I cannot even tell you because it happens on a daily basis.
Team or single founder?
Team.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Wine or beer?
Both. Champagne.
What's the favorite app on your phone?
Maybe WhatsApp and Telegram because I use it most for work now.
Mm-hmm.
That's the start of. They don't want to send you emails or you just shoot them a message.
And what's something on your bucket list?
Many things. What's the most important?
No, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Even if it's the silliest.
It's like super, because I crossed so many things from my bucket list, like skydiving, travel by myself, to the countries I wanted to, but I did so many things last year, so I really have to go through my bucket list and see what's not yet.
But that's fantastic.
It's not like crossed,
That's
so.
good.
Companies
Yeah, founded 2 companies.
bought
Bought one, founded one. So I had like my own startup experience, my own M&A experience. Yeah.
And if you could have the attributes of an animal, what would that be? What animal would you like to be?
A butterfly.
Thank you so much, Laura, for joining us this evening and for all your wonderful answers and everything that you could share with us.
Thank you, David.
And thank you all for coming as well, in spite of the weather, in spite of the health scares and all the other scares, all you brave people. We still have a few more snacks and food and a bit more talking and networking. And I guess if you're still around a little bit,
Yeah,
if anyone has any questions to ask Laura, lauraslaw.ch.
Actually, it's called Fontana law, so it's not
there you go.
entirely wrong.
But once again, thank you all for coming tonight, for weSpace for hosting us, and wish you all a wonderful evening.